If we look at the corners as if they're pillars, we have 6 pillars here. And that makes for a good backdrop for the 6 of Wands. In the left corner on the screen, we have the Sun, and on the right corner, we have Jupiter. And mixed into the carpet on the floor, we have a picture imposed of a goat. So the 6 of Wands would be Sun and our Jupiter in Capricorn. And it's the point of the warming quarter of the year, Imbolc, as people would call it, which is sort of the dawn of the year, if you think of the year in terms of a day. And we have the sigils for the quinary periods, Andros and Hares. Sort of looks like a day becoming distinct from the night after that cross quarter. But you'll find out more about that in my Like the Goetia programs number 62 and 63, won't you? And we have the win-win aspect shown by the 6 hands, but we're talking about our blood brothers here and, working together towards the blood pool, as it's called, shown on one of the book stands. And Winston Churchill placed below the person leading the sermon because, of course, spiritual order is above the mundane order, but he was trying to do something magical with his victory sign. It was a victory sign. It later got thought of as the peace sign. And you have another version of the victory sign, the standing full body version of it, with I don't know who on top of the mountain, but I clipped that out. And, he has his say, right? And you're passing on to the causal worlds, as you could say. And so that would break into our next and most important part of the message of this card is pillars of faith. So in the Temple of Blood, what might be a way of expressing that? So give it a similar format to how it would be going on in this building, typically what they would recite, or we're not talking about the 5 pillars or whatever, but we're talking about but so we have, so they would believe in Satan, Iblis, Shaitan, and Gromenu, whatever term you're going to use for that. And that would be left here. And then right in the center would be the other beings, the other acausal beings, as they're typically called in Temple of Blood and Order of Nine Angle associated literature. And that would be the fire beings. People call them elementals or planetaries or celestials or whatever. They are the gendered beings. They are, well, maybe not quite gendered how we are, but they're the fiery, the what people call the gods and goddesses, guardians, Davas, Asuras, Rakshasas. There's all sorts of terms for that sort of thing. And then we would go to the right in the idea of prophet. Now, prophet means spiritually gifted. So this building, I'm using the English term here. So the thing here said that saying up top implies there's no more of two types of prophets, but we're not talking about the exemplar and messenger prophets of Allah in this program. This is not the Perle. We're drawing a comparison. People are spiritually gifted to confirm what they've heard from others. They have a soul, they are a soul, certain spiritual realms exist, certain other spiritually based claims. There's evidence for it on the spiritual platform. I don't know how to quite describe that like that, but there's things, and those things exist, but and it's mystical, because it directs life. It provokes a real world life, not just, oh, well, I've got some ideas from rituals, and some of that comes through. And then speaking of that, in the left, there's three types of things that come forth. You got the revealed, you got the inspired, and you got the representative, things that are provoke that. Now, people talk about grimoires and stuff. And among what's there, you can realize that, okay, I don't have to do certain things like practice the Goetia with the Christian or the Jewish theology or authority and that sort of stuff, operating your spiritual operations without little boundaries around you and all that sort of stuff. And since we are a nation of priests and priestesses and all that, unto our shamans or whatever, unto ourselves, we go to the right again and think about how we don't deceive ourselves. We try not to, we're working towards not allowing ourselves to be deceived. If we don't know, we are admitting it to ourselves. So basically, the pillar that self-deceit is not what we're to be doing. And then going to the left is about fate. We're not fatalist. We are culpable of what's in our control. Sometimes we don't know what's in our control till we try. And speaking towards that, we have our choices in belief and behavior, which lead to habits, which lead to character, which establishes our destiny. It all adds up like that. People would say that the 6 cards in the tarot are about the positive flow of energy. And positive, I don't mean in some sort of moral sense. And people would say that the goat, going to the Capricorn, would be the primal life, beyond abstraction, a savageness, things that seem terrible and all that until you're in it, right? If you're fighting it, okay, it's a lot of things are problematic. Like it's like nightmares, some things are nightmares until you stop fighting them. And breaking it down into the salt, mercury, and sulfur aspect, I guess we were talking about a sulfur in mercury. The one would be mercury, but the sulfur, that victory. So we're past the what's the word? We're in the immediate future. We don't know quite what, but we're, like the guy, he's had his experience, this victorious experience, he's living it, and he's passing on and through into a causal, or he's being at the forefront, letting it go through him. Now, we shouldn't remain stagnant. Just because we've learned something or accomplished something, we need to continually unfold. We need to continually awaken our inner vision, as shown, like when you have a 333, you can think of the night vision thing. So we're continually generating and opening and solidifying and working on the whole machinery of it. And as much as I have bounced this off of other lists of belief, I would say that, you know, the Temple of Blood is supposed to be independent of being reactionary to the mainstream faiths. It's not about whether they believe or do something or don't believe and do something. That's why, you're going to find, you know, the sort of path where you just have to do the opposite and different and all that stuff than everybody else. It's, that's not really what we're doing here. And the guy standing before the microphones, I mean, in the edit here, it doesn't mean that he has to use his authority over other people like that, but it's the influencing and directing people is one thing, but in their inner world, their inner and outer world is also represented by the six, is they're in agreement, and the person's being honest to themselves. They are realizing that there's something that can be done about their situation because of how their situation is, or that there's something about their choice that created their situation, and that you can use sources or create your own to work out your own spiritual life. You can have your experience, and you're directly, you can make the direct connection to these entities. There's no, you don't have to pay somebody to do rituals and all that for you. And there's quite the variety of entities. And these entities are, there is some hierarchies here and there. Some of them don't operate that way. People say hierarchy like it's you debating hierarchy, and are that sort of thing. And there is a starting of it all, and the starting of it all, of all those beings who rebelled and went and became what, now again, they still had choice, so not everybody continued along that side, but you can tell the ones that respond, and they all have choice. These two middle pillars, they represent beings that have choice. The human beings, we have choice, and they have choice. And going to the left corner, sometimes their choices have put us towards having a choice, right? But the whole thing was they were not going to submit to God. And that's why the beings that I'm representing by these two middle pillars, and the word for God there is the, you know, singular and definitive for divinity in Arabic, Allah. It's not particular to Islam or anything like that. It's used by everybody that uses that language. Because we can look going to that right of the center four pillar and say the prophet aspect, and some people say, oh, in Satanism the Satanist is the prophet. It's like, well, not everybody has the degree of experience. They're gonna do their own path, but they are going to learn techniques, how to feel and to see and that sort of stuff, and maybe they won't experience a direct spiritual reality, but their giftedness is for themselves. It's whatever is done or not done can be directed, as indicated again to bounce off the graphic of the circle of 6 hands of the brotherhood that is, feeding the blood pool, as you call it. Everything that's done or not done for the entities, for the causal, as it's called, void entities, whatever people want to call it, anything is acceptable. So it's not quite as strict as what you would see here. Like, for example, the Islamic ideal is to not believe or do anything until you refer it back to, as the statement up top implies, the revelation and the inspiration that was supposed to come through the final messenger. Now, final is not the term there, but within the teachings, it's pretty clear. But they're not saying no one else is spiritually gifted. As I said, the Satanist operates on the two types of prophet to the left that mainstream religion would reject. Well, they don't reject the sectarian prophet, but the sectarian and the demonic prophet. And there's a lot of demons to call their prophets. And there wouldn't be, like in mainstream religion, there would be concern about certain style or lack of contradictions or whatever. It's, using what you have, reworking it, but just like, as I said, with this right corner, you don't deceive yourself. If you don't know, you don't know. At the very least, you're not deceiving yourself.